When I heard the original, um, I really was inspired, and I just really loved the way the melody came through and the emotions it conveyed. But it wasn't ready for. I couldn't really play it out. I felt so. I wanted to make a little bit of an edit with a bit more energy to play out. Specifically, I played this at Must Die, and I just want to give a breakdown of what I did. I think it's quite simple, but I think it goes to show that really simple ideas can make really good music. So I'm gonna just kind of go over it from top to bottom here, starting with what I did with the original song. I really just used OTT to brighten it up. That's genuinely all. Here's probably a better time to hear it. I brightened it up with OTT, and then I added a high pass during the drop, so that wouldn't interfere with the bass. Not much else to add there, genuinely. This track is empty. I'm gonna delete it. Next up, we have our main bass. So this is a slightly modified kind of speed garage bass where I gave it some more movement. I increased the attack. This is just from a sample pack. I used to really be of the opinion that I had to make everything but scratch, but I really realized recently that there's no shame in using samples and presets. They're there to help us. You at the end of the day, you're still a musician and you're assembling it how you'd like, so there's no shame in that. Anyways, I have this going. I have a macro set up, a macro 2, which increases the filter a bit. And what else does it actually do? Does it do anything else? Let's see. And it just increases the decay. So it kind of expands out, goes from wom, wom, wom to more like a wow, wow, wow. Extends it out a bit more. Let's talk about these sparkles. So I think this is a big part of what helps the track. It gives it a lot of kind of background ear candy that I think helps with a simple song like this. I'll play them for you now, just so you can kind of tell what they're doing, and then I'll explain what they are and how I made them. So I've been really inspired by Botanica kind of styled compositions and songs these days using natural elements, and especially Fritz, I think, has been a really big inspiration of recent. So I've took it upon myself to try to compose small songs and then use them in resampling. So here I have one. I don't know if it's reverse or not, but here it is. So I made this basically at some point. And then I simply reversed it and made sure it was in key and put it in there. And it has that kind of ethereal reversing, swelling, almost like and when I hear it, I think of like a JRPG, like crystal kind of beautiful forest, calm, serene section, and I really like that, and I think it matched the energy of the original song quite well. Next, I just have some simple effects. We got a sweep here. I ran it through chroma to make it a little less like abrasive. Here's what it is normally. And here it is with chroma. I've been using chroma a lot to keep things in key. I think it's a nice kind of hack. It's used for color base, but you can really use it on anything. That's about it from there. I'm just gonna quickly cover the drums. So here we have this the full drum bass. It's genuinely not too much. Again, I have 2 garage drum loops here. One's panned a bit left, one's panned a bit right, just to give it some stereo interest. We have a nice kind of tight, punchy kick and a small snare. I layered a reverb clap underneath the snare to give it some more space. Little hat, like a ride here. Little snare roll there. This clap. I just felt right. Sometimes you don't have to convince why you do things, but it kind of fills that space a little. I like it. What else do we have? I have another version of that kind of sparkles here. Simple little snare riser. During the build-up section, I have these low-pass drums here, just to kind of give it some pace and inform the listener that this is going to be a bit more of a heavier, dancey drop. And you can hear it kind of quietly in the background when I play the full mix. It's a nice little like lead in, and I think that's very important in dance music. You kind of somewhat tell the listener what's going to happen, or else they'll be surprised. It's not a hard and fast rule, depends on the context, but I felt it was important here. Let's go over what I did during the second drop. It's pretty similar. I just changed the bass a little. So let's listen to the old bass versus the new bass. I modified the bass a bit. I think specifically I increased the sync to give it more of that high-pitched sound. And I made the filter open up a bit more. For the second drop, I used a cool technique I learned, or I've thought of. It's pretty common in bass to kind of do a fake out-ish thing for one of your drops where you filter it out. I want to do it in a different way. So I found a convolution reverb preset here that says phone call. And what this actually is it simulates like a recording through a phone. So if you listen to this with it on, you can hear it pretty well. So I just have that going 100% wet for that little bit. It's a really interesting effect. I definitely think I'll be using it more. And during the second drop, again, just to give it some more movement, something more happening. So it's not the same thing. I changed the bass, but I also added this nice little backgroundy pad element that I'll play for you now. It's quite quiet. It's actually not too noticeable, but I think it adds a lot. So I'll play this now without the sparkles in the background element, and I think you'll notice it's a bit more empty. Now once with them on. Again, what it is it's simply that composition I made. I chopped it up. I give it OTT and quite a few things. I'll turn them all off so you can hear it. So this is without anything. It's actually quite loud. I put an OTT to kind of smooth it out a bit. Glue compressor to kind of like hard compress it and make it a bit quieter. Valhalla shimmer to give it some more space. A shaper box, which I'm using it to pan left and right, so it kind of like goes back and forth. And an echo that's not in use, but I believe at the end it yes, it turns on a bit at the end. And that's that. I'll just quickly go over the master, because I don't think there's much mixing. I genuinely did. Just little reverbs. Basically, that's it. For my master recently, I've been very minimalist. Usually just a saturator set to soft clip and some ozone utilities. So I'll show what they're all doing here. First thing I use here is the ozone advanced imager just to give it some width. I think it's pretty subtle, to be honest, but I think it's still pretty important. Next up, we have the ozone clarity. This is kind of something similar to soothe, but it does cuts and boosts to kind of make it hit a certain like goal of sound, if that makes sense. So this is a very transparent thing, and I think it's sometimes imperceptible, but I think it helps out. It's like a lazy master EQ that just does a little bit. And then finally, I just have a saturator set on the digital clip, just the drive set to just enough so that it clips a little. So here's without that. And you can see here on the oscilloscope, there's a lot of like peaks. So just by turning it on, I just chop off the peaks slightly. And that lets me get a fairly loud mix without too much coloration. The things you can get away with the most with clipping is definitely drums, because like it's honestly like a fraction of a millisecond where it clips, and it just sounds kind of nice. That's our kick. Let's put this on slower. So you can see there it is clipped. And if I turn off the clipper, genuinely we only chop the tiniest bit off the top. So you can get just a little bit more loudness. Yeah, that's a nice breakdown of my remix. If there's any more questions, feel free to ask. And yeah, don't feel the need to make insanely expansive songs. You can have great songs with just a few elements, and you don't have to custom make them all. I think that's a very freeing thought, and I hope you guys all integrate that a bit into your workflow. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.